Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. It's Dr. Dwain Woode, and I'm in another fast. That's right. If you joined me last night, you saw you saw how we interrupted it. And we did a show where I came on. An unexpected. It was an unscheduled show. You want to make sure you go ahead and watch that. But here we're continuing our series where we're talking about the science of hunger. If we can deal with hunger, if we can deal with the appetite, then a lot of our lifestyle choices actually get better. And so we've been spending some time talking about the science of hunger. How does the body regulate hunger? In fact, how do we set ourselves up to be successful in the management of our appetite and our hunger? And that's what we've been doing the last several shows as we've been doing the check in. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to get off of medications, in fact, who want to put their diabetes in remission and set themselves up to be successful as they are making changes in their metabolism. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that we are happy that you are in this space with us. If you have questions as we move throughout the show, go ahead and drop those in the chat, in the comments, put a Q in front of them so that we know that that's what that is. As I search, I'll be looking for those types of the Q, so I know that that is a question. All right. Otherwise, they just look like comments, and we'll kind of go through as we and we'll talk about them as well. I just want to do this. I want to say hello to some of our community members that are out there. I do see some folks, but before I do that, I want to remind you. All right, to make sure you get back and look at, like I said, the special show that we did last night that was on it was not scheduled. Right, it was not scheduled, but it was a fun show. I had a good time on there. If you've not done that, go ahead and look at that. And let's look and see. We've got some community members that are out there. Whatever platform you find yourselves on, I want to say hello to you. If you are on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, actually not TikTok, Twitch. Of course, here on YouTube and then on Facebook. Thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. Let's hop over and let's say hello to some of our folks. I see Jennifer. Jennifer saying howdy all. Juyan is saying hello. Hi, Jennifer. Hand waving. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It is 11:30 a.m. in South Korea. Well, thank you for hanging out with us from all the way from South Korea. Glad that you are in the space. Jennifer says, I was doing well today, started a fast, then my mother called. She's a huge stressor in my life. I ate 3 cookies, felt better while eating, and for 10 minutes. Now I'm bloated, but still stressed. Yeah, Jennifer, I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. That's all I can say. But I bet you, like you said at the time, the cookies taste so good, didn't they? Right? And yeah, and they for that moment brings it seems to bring the stress away. It seems to take the stress away. It puts us in that space that we like to be in. But now we've got to deal with still the stressors. And you're right. So I feel you, Jennifer. I'm right there with you. Were they chocolate chip, by the way? I shouldn't be asking that, right? I'm sorry, Jennifer. I shouldn't be asking that. Maybe they were oatmeal raisin. If that was good, okay. Jiyeon said, "I am happy to eat soon." Okay, so so Jiyeon, sorry. What? How long have you been fasting? I'm assuming you said close to lunchtime. Yeah. So this is where you usually break your fast, if I remember correctly. And Jennifer said, and my CGM started screaming at me, finally back down to 137. Jennifer, here's a question. How high did it go? Do you have yours set at 150 or 180? And then how high did it go in that peak? in that peak. Okay. Gion said, I want to deal with my appetite and hunger, which relate to my emotions and mental. Yeah, that is so true. Jennifer says, hello, Gion. Gion says, Doctor, you are cute on last night's picture. I like it. Thank you, thank you. Last night live. Thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a good story. I like I said, I wanted to make sure that people understand that the struggle is real. Jennifer says snickerdoodles. Okay, okay. And Jion said, Doctor, can you see previous? Um, can I see your previous comments? Not on this stream. I'd have to go back to the other stream to see those. But I'll take a look at those when I a little later on. Gion said, I struggle with food my whole life. It is a thing. It is a thing, Gion, that we all, I shouldn't say we all, one of the places where people struggle is with food. And we think about other areas, but that is a big one. Gion said bad TEDx. Oh, Jennifer says she went up to 189. Okay, so 189 and then back down now. I think you said 137. Let me see, where did I find that? Yeah, 137. So CGM came down to said this now 137. Okay. All right. So let's do this, and let's hop over and let's do our check-in. And as you know, whenever we are trying to change something, when we're trying to improve something, we always want to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves. How are we feeling? How are we working? Is it working for us? How is our body dealing with it? Okay. Before we do that, though, let's set the stage. So, New Year, New You. What is New Year, New You? New Year, New You has been the process that we have been using. This idea, it's a concept, it's a pathway that we've been using to move ourselves in the direction of reversing our diabetes, of improving our metabolic health, of getting off medications and setting ourselves up for future, current, and future success when it comes to our health. So New Year, New You. There's a whole series that we've done. All the shows are out there in our playlist, How to Reverse Diabetes, right? Those are the shows for the New Year, New You. In the process, we've learned several powerful tools in how do we set ourselves up for success? How do we improve our metabolic state? How do we heal our body? How do we minimize our insulin levels? How do we suppress our appetite? How do we reduce our sugar? Those are the pillars. And one of the most powerful tools that we've learned is the tool of fasting, because fasting hits all of the pillars. It decreases insulin, it suppresses the appetite, and it reduces sugar. And so because of that, we've been using fasting as one of those tools. Another one of the tools we have is the balanced bites, right? The foods that we eat that fuel our body make a difference in all three of those pillars as well. Because if we do a good job with our balanced bites, remember, foods that are minimizing processing, right? Whole foods, no added sugar, non-starchy and starchy vegetables, tasty, portion sizes, right? All of those, lean protein, healthy fats. If we focus on that type of food, then by virtue of eating that type of food, our insulin levels will go down. Because insulin goes down, our appetite is not as stimulated, because remember, insulin is an appetite stimulant. And because we're not stimulating our appetite, then the natural process is that we're going to have lower sugar. Notice that. Decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, reduce sugar, right? So another one of those tools that is amazing in its ability to hit the pillars. But fasting is one that we've been using. And so every week we do a fast. I do a 72-hour fast, and I come on at roughly 24-hour intervals where we do a check-in, and we do that as we go through so that we can look at the things that are going on in our bodies and so that we can come together as a community and share with each other what's happening, what are some places where we're having successes, where are some places where we have challenges, where we can share what are the tools, what are some of the hacks that we're doing. Amazing, right here. Okay, so this is a check-in that we're doing, and one of the first check-ins for this week, actually second check-in because I did one last night, for this week, so that we can say how can we be successful in fasting. Because if we can get the tool to work for us, then we set ourselves up for better success. Right? So if you're joining us first time, that is where we are. If you have been with us, and just as a reminder of where we're going, why are we doing the things that we're doing? And so fasting, the tool, and so how does the tool work? And as we are working to get the tool to work for us and evaluating the tool, we do a check-in. And there are three areas where people will struggle. It is with their physical, mental, and emotional state. These are the three pillars, or these are the three things. Because fasting is not just not eating. It is a physical, it affects you physically, it affects your mentation, and it affects your emotions. And so we want to make sure that we're doing well because we want to set ourselves up for success. As we get into our fasting review on Friday, we'll go into more detail about how we prepare for the fast, how do we get into the fast and get through it successfully, and then of course how do we break the fast. So you want to make sure that you're joining us for that. But let's go ahead and let's do our check-in. So physically I'm actually doing well. I did go to sleep a little later last night because, like I said, I was on last night, I did the show, and I ended up staying up a little later than I intended, because I had to get some things out of my head. I had to process. I had to use the COPE model, and I was there going through the process of dealing with that, and then finally I was able to get to sleep. Okay, so physically I'm doing well, but I did go to sleep a little later than I should have, but I'm not feeling that. Typically with the physical, how we're doing physically, people will feel dips in energy. They will feel as though they are drained. They'll feel as though they hit a wall. All of those are phrases that people will use. And most of it has to do with how they are resting rather than how the fasting is going, right? If you're not rested, then you're going to feel the dips in energy, or I shouldn't say the dips in energy, the transitions from one energy source to another. Because remember, in fasting, what we're doing is we're switching from carbs to burning ketones. You'll feel that more in a more pronounced way if you're not well rested. Okay, so physically. And then mentally goes right on the heel. Actually, let me get back to physical for a minute, because when we talk about physical, other things that people will feel: palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, all of those are physical symptoms that people can see and feel depending on their hydration status, depending on whether they're rested, depending on whether they have done a good job of keeping their electrolytes in balance. All of those are places and reasons why people physically can feel different things. So as we're talking about fasting and being successful for fasting, as we're doing the check-in and we come to a particular area where we say, okay, I'm having some challenges here, then the question becomes, why am I having that challenge, and what do I do to overcome it, to correct it, so that as I move into the future, I have more successful fasts, right? So physically. Mentally, if I am not doing well physically, then that shows up in my mentation, shows up in my thought process. I right now am actually feeling pretty good. I actually came back from the store. Well, not came back, but I came in from the store after work. I went off and I grabbed, I bought a smoker. And I don't know what it is about guys. I shouldn't just say guys, because there's some gals as well. So I don't know what it is, but whenever we buy stuff, right, we get excited. So it's in the garage, and it was all I could do to not break the box open and get in there and take it out and start, reading the manual and doing some stuff. Actually, probably, typical guy. I was just gonna start using it. I wasn't gonna read the manual. All right. So my mentation actually is actually pretty good. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel dull. I don't feel like I'm grasping. I don't feel like I'm in a fog, as sometimes people will say. And that also goes on the heels of the physical. And then, of course, emotionally, as I just mentioned, I am excited because I've got, when I get off here, I'm going to go out there, break the box open. I bought the wood, the hickory and mesquite. Anyway, so I've got that in there. I've got some rubs that I'm going to be making. I got a new recipe I'm going to be trying. So anyway, so all of that is exciting to me. And so here's a point, and I guess I'll make it here, but it fits anywhere. I won't even go into that because I usually talk about this when we talk on Fridays when we do our review. Remaining busy helps through the fast. If we're busy, if we are occupied, I just don't want to say busy. If we are occupied, then the fast goes better. So for me, right, so I've been talking, a friend of mine recommended this particular smoker. So I've been looking at it. Finally, we bought it today. My wife ordered it. I went and picked it up, got it in the car, came home. And so, all of my thought processes now, okay, let me go try this. And it has like 5 different racks. So I'm like, okay, so I can try something on this rack and something on that rack. It just, you get the idea. All right. So excited. And that helps as you're going through a fast to make sure that you are occupied with other things. Okay. All right. So let's now hop over, and I'm going to look at blood sugars. Now, just as I was getting ready to come on, I was, changing my sweater, or taking off my jacket, changing my sweater. And as I took my sweater off, it pulled on my Dexcom and it came off. So this, what you're seeing is actually I just put a new Dexcom on right before I came on. And you see right now my blood sugar is 118 according to the Dexcom. Let's see. And then if we go back, here we go. Okay, here we are. If we go back, you'll see what my blood sugars have been running for most of the day. All right, so 180s, 120s, into the early morning. And so right here, so remember last night when we did our show, I did my show right after I came home, and I had broken it. What did I eat? Chicken wings, French fries, and on the way home I got a bag of chips. Right, so we got up to about 140s, and then came back down. Okay, so at that point I had been fasting for about 24, maybe 25 hours ish. Okay, so anyway, so that's my let's get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. There we go. So I'm showing you all kinds of stuff now. That was my Dexcom, and here is my Libre. This is my Libre 3. So Libre 3 says my blood sugar is 89. And let's hop over and let's take a look at my monitor. So I've got my Keto Mojo and I've got my Contour. Let's go ahead and grab a strip. Remember, the Keto Mojo gives me both blood sugar and it also gives me ketones. And the Contour, of course, just gives me ketones. Oh, sorry, not ketones, blood sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the ketone strip here. There we go. Get that in. And I'm going to open up the ketone as well because I don't want to have to prick myself again. And I'm going to just leave that hanging out there for a minute. Okay, I can do this one, you can see there. So I'm just leaving that right here. All right, so let's go ahead and get it into my handy dandy container, and let's see what we have. Yeah, there we go. So these are the Lancets that I've become kind of partial to. All right, so these are just twist off. You twist the top off, and let's come back here. Twist the top off, and there is. All right, so there's a little needle. You can probably see that right about there. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and I started pricking my finger there. Oh, so this. Ooh, that hurts. Hopefully that gives me a good. Okay, that's good enough. All right. So let's get that started. Let's hop over here. Okay, so we'll see what those. So 123 for the Keto Mojo. Let's see what this guy says. The contour says that I'm 100, and you'll see on the screen my Libre says 89. And then now let's go ahead and grab this strip out. This is my ketone strip, and we'll go ahead and get that started. So if you think you know what my ketones are, go ahead and give me a guess. All right, go ahead and give me a guess. And now I'm fasting 24 and a half hours. 24 and a half hours. Okay, so hopefully you guys didn't see that yet. Okay, so drop that in the comments if you think you know what it is. All right, so we'll come back and we'll take a look at that, see where we are here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and let's hop into our conversation. Just before that, let me get back over and let's see what we have in our comments. Gion said bad TEDx. So Gion, put that again for me. I'm not sure I understand about the TEDx. Bad TEDx. He said he's supposed to help you. Protein is first or fat is first, you think? So tonight we're going to be talking about protein. Last week we were talking about ketones, and we'll kind of review that in a minute. Gion said, how about fruits? Well, fruits fall right into carbohydrates. Doctor, 72-hour fast every day. So no, I do a 72-hour fast once a week. Steve says, hello, team. Hello, Steve. Steve said, Dr. Woode, Beth made her creme brulee tonight. Steve, do you have some for me? Do you have some for me? Okay, I'm gonna write down your address and I'm popping by. Steve said, use cashews instead of fruits. Okay. Jennifer said, oh, Steve, sounds yummy. It is yummy, and Steve is guessing at 0.7. I like that. Okay. All right, so let's hop in and let's have our conversation. So we've been talking, like I said, the science of food, the science of hunger. How does the body regulate appetite and so forth? And so over the last several weeks, this is what we've been talking about. As I mentioned, we're going to do this for the next couple of weeks. So we've got two episodes in the series this week. Then we'll do our check-in on Friday, and then with our review, and then we'll do a couple episodes the following week. So hunger is one of those things. And if you've been following along, you know that we've been exploring how our bodies regulate hunger, how it regulates satiety. Tonight, we're diving deeper. We're getting a little deeper into one of the essential macronutrients, which is protein. So proteins, fat, and carbs, those are the three macronutrients. And we have done conversations where we talked about carbs, of course, and then protein we're going to talk about tonight as it relates to hunger and satiety, and then we'll come back and we'll do fats. So in this episode, we're discussing the role of in the previous episode we discussed the role of ketones and how they help to suppress appetite, suppress hunger. Tonight we'll turn to protein and how they help to control appetite and maintain satiety. And then later on, we'll deal with how fats do this kind of the same thing. And in this space, we're talking about proteins, and proteins are actually pretty unique. We'll talk about what is unique about them and how they impact us as we get into eating. Okay, so how proteins regulate appetite. That is our conversation. So the first question is, what is a protein, right? So protein is one of the three macronutrients, right? It's one of the three macronutrients that we have, um, that the body uses for energy and for proper function. So three of them: fats, carbs, and protein. And unlike carbs and fats, protein serves as a building block, right? So fats and carbs typically are used as the energy sources. Protein typically is used as a building block within the body. It's used to build tissues. It's used to construct hormones. It's used to make enzymes. And remember, enzymes are those things in the body that really catalyze and do a lot of the work in the system. So proteins are those building blocks that the body takes in, and it begins to use them for all these different areas. So enzymes, building tissue, repairing tissue. In fact, when autophagy, which is one of those cellular cleanup processes, when autophagy begins, autophagy, one of the things it does is it recycles proteins, right? And those proteins are used to correct, build, and so forth, and enhance other parts of the body. So while protein is often associated with muscle, right? We talk about protein in terms of muscle building. That is, people say, hey, I don't want to fast because if I fast or if I am not careful, then I will lose muscle mass. So while proteins are associated with building muscle and maintaining muscle, it has a lot of other functions in the body, right? The impact on the metabolism and hormonal balance and on other things that are going on is very crucial. And in this case, we're talking about hunger cues, right? Hunger cues and how proteins are helping to regulate that. So that's what a protein is. So let's talk about protein as it relates to the hunger hormone. So remember, ghrelin is often called the hunger hormone. It's that signal that goes to the brain that says that I'm hungry. So when my stomach is empty, and ghrelin is made in the stomach, when my stomach is empty, I don't have that stretch, right? Because stretched stomachs decrease ghrelin. So if my stomach is not stretched because I have processed all the food, I've broken it down, I've absorbed it, then ghrelin's signal goes up. So the amount of ghrelin the body goes up, and then that goes to the brain. Remember, the hypothalamus, and it says to the hypothalamus, I'm hungry. Yes? So that's the signal. And so studies have shown that when we have high protein meals, this helps to lower ghrelin, reducing the sensation of hunger. Because remember, stretched stomach, not hungry. Empty stomach, hungry. But if we put things in there, we could put carbs, we could put fat, we could put protein. And when they've done the studies, it's shown that if the meal that you eat is high in protein, then it helps to lower the ghrelin so that we don't stimulate hunger. We don't stimulate the appetite. We don't get those cravings, or not as much. So that's one of the benefits of protein and how it affects ghrelin. There's another protein that also is part of this whole system that we've not talked about quite yet, and it is peptide YY or PYY. So protein peptide YY is a hormone that signals fullness. So remember, the ghrelin signals hunger. So when my stomach is not stretched, ghrelin goes up because ghrelin wants stuff in the stomach so the stomach will stretch again. And when the stomach gets stretched, then the signal goes away. The peptide YY or PYY is a signal that I am full. So it's not the signal to the brain to go eat. It's not the signal of hunger. It's a signal that says I'm full. And so this protein helps to decrease the overall food intake naturally. So if I'm just going to say PYY because I keep trying to say both of them. So if PYY is elevated, that means my body thinks I'm full and then I don't have to go eat. And so protein, when we eat protein, protein causes the production, the increase, the boosting of PYY. So protein blunts ghrelin, right? So it decreases the amount of ghrelin, and it stimulates PYY. So we're hitting it in both places, in several directions. Okay. So how do protein increase satiety? How do proteins increase satiety? Well, they do it in several ways. One, proteins do it by slowing down digestion. So this is just a natural function of protein. It slows digestion because proteins take longer to break down than in the stomach than it does to break down carbs and fats. So when we have protein has to get enzymes that cleave it and break it up, and it gets broken down into amino acids and so forth. That process takes longer than it does take to break down carbohydrates and fats. In fact, there's some carbohydrates, as soon as it goes into the mouth, it begins getting broken down. Proteins typically have to go through the mouth, into the esophagus, into the stomach, and within the stomach now we have acids and other enzymes that are there that are breaking them down. But some carbs, as soon as they go in the mouth, the body's breaking it down. Remember we talked about that amylase that's there within the mouth? There's an amylase in the mouth. There's also amylase in the GI tract further down that break down, and they help to break down carbohydrates. But proteins they don't get broken down in the mouth. Okay? So energy density is different for protein. All right? This is another question, is how proteins increase satiety. So compared to carbs and fats, protein is more satiating. Protein is more satiating. It has more substance in a lot of cases. And here's an interesting point when we talk about energy. Proteins take more energy to break down than some of the other molecules. So that not only does it blunt the absorption of carbohydrates, not only does it help us feel more satiated, but the process of breaking proteins down to its component parts requires energy. And it requires energy, and so we're using up some energy in the process of digesting protein. Isn't that cool? So it has a built-in process for utilizing some energy. So as you guys know, when I fast and I'm breaking my fast, one of the things I try to do is I try to prolong my fast by eating protein. Okay? And I want you to think about what you eat and how your body processes. Think about breakfast. Eggs, lean meat versus cereal. When you're done eating the high protein meal that you ate, the breakfast that you ate that had the protein and so forth, you tend to feel fuller longer than when you eat cereal. The cereal goes away almost immediately, and you start to feel hunger again. But when we're eating protein, when we're eating things like eggs, and I'm saying eggs, but any protein that you have, right? So whether you're eating tempeh or tofu or beans, any of those things will help to keep you fuller longer compared to the same amount of carbohydrates or fat. Well, fat, we'll talk about fat another time, so we won't even bring fat into this conversation. Let's just compare fat and protein, right? Compared to protein, carbohydrates, you're going to be hungrier faster. Okay? So proteins slow the process of digestion. They use energy, and they stimulate PYY, and they decrease ghrelin. So all of those things are processes that go on when it comes to protein. So types of protein also is a big place where people have conversations. So animal protein versus animal protein like meat, fish, eggs, versus plant-based, such as beans, lentils, nuts. Right. So when we eat animal protein, of course, those are called complete because they have all the different components in them. When we eat plant-based, you may have to eat different components, different combinations of foods to get the protein. That doesn't mean that you can't get it, and doesn't mean you should not try. So if you're out there and you say, well, I'm interested in trying being vegetarian or vegan, I'm worried about getting enough protein, you do not have to worry about that. If you do a good job of the foods that you're eating a good combination, then you will get all the protein that you need. So what are some practical tips? What are some practical tips for protein intake? Number one, start your day with a protein-rich meal. Now, I'm gonna rush over and get into that because I am not suggesting that you have to have breakfast. That's not what that statement was. The statement says whenever you start eating, start that meal, start the eating process, the eating window with a protein-rich meal. And if you do that, you can reduce the hunger throughout the day and stabilize blood sugar levels. All right, so if you're doing a 16-8, if you're doing a 72-hour, if you're doing one meal a day, whatever the process is that you're using, even if you're not fasting, in fact, if you're doing just a regular non-fasting, I'm just eating my food, I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and supper, try to start the day, that first meal, with a protein-rich combination of foods, because that's going to help keep you satiated longer throughout the day, and it's going to reduce the hunger throughout the day. It's going to help stabilize the blood sugar. Now, an interesting point about blood sugar, right? And we're not talking about sugar here necessarily, but remember that anytime the sugar fluctuates, then that can potentially stimulate the appetite, because the body sees that as needing energy, and so it thinks, I've got to get you to eat so that I could stop the fluctuation. So the other thing that eating protein does is it does not make the fluctuations. Well, depending on the protein you eat, right? So we don't have as wide a fluctuation. Let me say it that way. Because there are some things that you eat, particularly if you're trying to do plant-based, right? You're going to have protein combined with carbohydrates. And so you will have some carbohydrates in there, and so you may have more fluctuations. But I wanted to make that point that the starting the day doesn't mean you have to have breakfast, but whatever you're doing, make sure that you're starting with protein-rich meals. And then you want to aim for roughly 20 to 30 grams of protein with the meals, per meal. All right, and there's a way to calculate protein. We will actually do more of that as we get into our upcoming season on how do we look at protein and how much protein and those types of things. But you want to aim for about 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. This amount should effectively trigger the release of the satiety hormones. So if you do that, and then this is on my list that there's a show that we're gonna do on snacking, right? Avoid snacks. There is no reason, there's no physiologic reason why we need to snack. Most of us get all of our extra. Let me back up. So the average person eats between 1,800 to 2,000 calories, right? That's where it is. Actually, let's even extend it a little bit more. 1,700 to 2,000 calories. 1,700 to 2,000 calories. That's what the average person eats per day. And if you look at what they're eating, when they're eating, a big chunk of that, a big component of that food that they're eating is actually eaten during snacks. Okay, so that's the food. That's what the planned food. Now, here's the thing. So aside from that, all the extra calories above that most people eat comes from snacking. So for a lot of people, simply eliminating snacking helps with blood sugar, helps with weight, helps with insulin sensitivity, helps with cravings, helps with appetite stimulation, helps with high blood pressure, helps with high cholesterol, helps with metabolic syndrome, simply by not snacking. So in a lot of the things that we talk about, and I am very cognizant, very, 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 that there is not a physiologic reason for snacking, but there certainly is a huge psychologic reason for snacking. Right up here. So as we talk about snacking, as you see when we're talking about our different the different paths or different stops on the path, New Year, New You, it's very rare that you'll see me put snacking in there. That is not to say that I don't have opinions on what to eat during snacking, but I don't put it in because it's not something that we need to do. And balanced bites anyway, right? So balanced bites, even in our snacking, balanced bites to fuel our body. That's what we want to. That's what we want to do. Okay, so so that is the tips on protein, right? So take it in. So start the day with protein rich. Aim for 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, and then avoid snacking. Practical tips. So as I started to say earlier, when I break my fast, right? I've been trying to incorporate more protein into my own fasting routine. So, and we've gone back and forth and started doing lots of different things. I think I am zeroing in on something that's going to be not, I don't want to say that's going to be what I do forever, but a process that's working, right? So the broth, and I had gotten away from broth when I broke my fast, but the broth is very good, right? And eating some protein at that time, very good as well. So I've incorporated more protein into my routine, and that has caused a noticeable change in my energy level and in my hunger or appetite, right? My psychological hunger. And so during my eating window, I prioritize protein. In fact, it's not uncommon to see me eating simple protein, or not just say simple, not simple protein, but just eating protein alone, right? So in the office, they sometimes would laugh at me because I'll order whatever it is that everybody's ordering, but like for instance, in one of our cases, when they looked at my order, it says only protein. So I think it was like a burrito bowl. And I was like, okay, I just want the protein. Don't give me any of the carbs. Or when we get, I don't know, when we get salad from a certain place, or one of those pasta salads, or whatever it is, then I will order and I'm saying, give me the protein. And I'm eating the protein. And I'm going and I'm getting more protein, right? Because if you're going to eat protein, I don't want you to feel hungry. And when I say feel hungry, I don't mean the hungry that we've just become accustomed to not feeling. That is empty stomach. I'm talking about true hunger. So I don't want you to feel that. Because if you do, then your ability to control what you eat is going to be minimized. Because when you're hungry, you're just grabbing stuff, right? You know how it is. You're just grabbing things around because I'm starving, I'm hungry. So if we can do a good job of keeping you satiated, then you can make choices about what you're going to eat. So if you're going to eat protein, if you normally eat, a piece of chicken and you eat, a mountain of pasta. I should say a mountain, some pasta, and you eat some beans and a roll, and you drink some unsweetened tea, right? So that meal. Then if you're cutting out the carbs, you can't just cut out the carbs without adding something to substitute for it, because depending on your metabolism and how much you need, you're going to be hungry. And I'm talking your real hunger, which we don't want. So I tell people, I want you, if you're gonna take some carbs away, you got to put some protein back in. So instead of having one piece of chicken, maybe you're gonna have two pieces of chicken. Maybe have two pieces of fish. Maybe you have a piece of fish and a piece of chicken, right? Maybe you have more tofu or tempeh or whatever it is, whatever your protein is. You're gonna add more to it, so that we are not just removing, but we're setting ourselves up for success. So prioritizing taking in the protein, very, very important as you are moving and trying to be healthy. Okay, so how protein increases our satiety. Protein is a powerful tool in your hunger toolbox. It's a huge one, huge one. By understanding its effect, you can better control cravings, maintain satiety, and improve your overall metabolic health. Because remember, protein, hunger, and appetite are the places where we find that we have the biggest struggles, and it's the place that most people will find that they fail in, they don't succeed in their health process, right? So the science of hunger is what we're talking about. And so we're coming back, right? We're continuing the series. This is the third episode in our series that we've done so far. Our next episode, which will be tomorrow, we'll be talking about fat's role in satiety and fullness. Fat's role in satiety and fullness. And then we'll do our review on Friday, and then we'll come back again to continue the series. So glad that you're here. Glad that you are hanging out with us as we move through the series. All right, so let's hop over now and let's see what we've got. We've got some comments. So Steve says, and this is the creme brulee. He's gonna have his wife make some for our next visit. So wow, Gion says, wow. Steve says she makes your yogurt bites with fruit and or nuts. That is great too. I will display some on our next Zoom meeting. So definitely. In fact, thank you for mentioning that Zoom, Steve. Let me go ahead and pop this in right now. So if you've not already done so, go ahead and sign up for the Zoom. And let's see, the Zoom. Our community meetup will be, it's actually going to be next week, next Thursday, because the following week is going to be right around Thanksgiving. So we're going to do it next week, next Thursday, on the 21st. Thursday the 21st is when that's coming up. So if you've not done so yet, go ahead and sign up for that. And the link, I just put the link in the comments. Okay. All right, so let's now, and Gian said, thank you, doctor. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars. And let me pull up my Dexcom Clarity and get back over here. Okay, so here's my blood sugar. And so this, what you're seeing is a 14-day average. Get back over here, there we go. So this is a 14-day average, and you'll see my average blood sugar right now is 115. I'm in target 98% of the time. Target being anywhere from 70 to 180. And you guys know that I've changed on my actual monitor on the app. I've changed my range from 70 to 180 to 70 to 150 because I want to know earlier if my blood sugar is getting up that high. Okay. And based on the last 2 weeks, 14 days, if I were to get a glucose, an A1C, my A1C would approximate a 6.1. So a point that I want to make here, and I had this conversation this today in the office, is that the glucose management indicator is not an A1C. It is a calculated number that is supposed to approximate the A1C, and usually it should be very close, but it's not an A1C, so it can be off. I had someone today who, according to their monitor, according to their continuous monitor, their glucose management indicator, I think, was 7.9, and when we got their A1C, it was 9.2. Right? And so the question they had was, well, I've been watching this thing, and I thought this thing was going to be more closely aligned with what my A1C is. Remember, it's a calculation, and the continuous monitors give you a number every 5 minutes. Right? So in between your A1C, when we get blood, it's not just taken every 5 minutes, it's taken 24 hours a day, every day for the last 90 days. That's what that represents. Whereas with the monitor, you're getting, is that 280 something, I think? 285, 286. And you math people, tell me if I do continuous monitor every 5 minutes for 24 hours, how many numbers do I actually get? How many readings do I actually get? Okay, but anyway, so I wanted to point that out. So that is the glucose management indicator. If I change to look at this for a 90-day period, we'll see what my average blood sugar is 131 with a range in target range of 89%, target being anywhere from 70 to 180, and my glucose management indicator being 6.4. Okay, so what that tells me, and this is how I interpret that for a lot of people when they come to the office, that says to me that the last 2 weeks have been better blood sugars than the last 90 days. Right, so the last 14 days have been better blood sugars than previously. So 6.4 gives me an average, blood sugar of 130 something, and a 6.1 giving me blood sugars in the 1-teens. So that's how I interpret that as I'm looking at people's blood sugars and looking at their monitor. All right. So now if I take a look and go and actually look at the daily graphs, we'll see what those are, and let's go ahead, and what I want to do is I want to take a look right here. So here was when, right before our show on Monday, Dwain Woode MD Live, right? Notice we went up here and we started fasting, and we fasted up until right about here, which is when the whole thing at FedEx happened, and so I broke the fast and I ate, and notice the blood sugar went up to about 150, I think, 148, and then I started fasting again, and so here we are in the 90s, so 26 hours of fasting, and here we are. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at so that's my graph. That's what my graphs are, and what I love about this, and looking back, right, I want you to notice the last, let's see, I think, can I show more graphs on this? I think I'm stuck to showing 4 at a time. But, so look at the blood sugars, and these blood sugars have been in the 1-teens, here up to 150, here I think I got up to 170 something, right here, 150, here on Sunday, got up to maybe 140s, 150s. Right, going back here, I think the highest was 160 there, 160, 170. Right, and so one of the reasons I love having the continuous monitor is that I can make near real-time decisions, right? Because I'm getting a number every 5 minutes. And so I can regulate what I do, how I do it, how I eat, what I eat based on this number. And so if my blood sugars are going up and I don't like it, and I can make a change. So when I talk to people, one of the things that we sometimes the system has not quite conveyed is that you do not have to always treat a blood sugar the same way. Now, I've been on medication and I've used medication to treat the blood sugar. I have been off medication like I am now, and I use water. I go walking. I decide I'm not eating. All of those are valid ways to treat a blood sugar. And there is nothing wrong in deciding, you know what? My blood sugar this morning was high because I ate cereal, and now it's 160s, 170s. And I am not going to eat lunch until the blood sugar comes down to a range where I'm comfortable. Or I'm going to skip lunch altogether and I'm going to eat supper. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, you need to make sure that, in terms of medications that you're on and things you've got to do, that you've checked with your healthcare provider. But everything being equal, there is no reason why you can't treat a high blood sugar with not eating. Remember that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my Dexcom Clarity, not Clarity, but my Keto Mojo says that my ketones are. And I think Steve guessed, he said he thinks it's going to be 0.7. Let's get rid of that one. Let's go over here. Let's do this one. All right. And so let's go ahead and turn this on. And then we're going to sync. Sync. Yeah, the sync. Sync with meter. All right. And drum roll. I keep saying I'm going to get a drum roll on this thing. I am going to get one. Let me see. And it's syncing. Huh. Why is it taking a long time? I'm not sure why, but there it is. Probably, let's see. Probably because I was actually I got logged out of the account on the app, and then I had to log back in. So I think it's just, I wouldn't expect it to take that long though, but there it is. All right, so 96%. We should be coming up here in just a minute. Oh, I don't want to do that. All right, so 0.6 I think is what Steve said. Success. Here we are. So yeah, 200. See that it synced 257 glucose and 254 ketones. So let's see. Let's go look at it. Here it comes. And let's see. Did anybody else put a guess? All right. So here it is. And so, oh, actually, so Steve, you put 0.7. So you're pretty close, right? So blood sugar of 123 and ketones of 0.6. Beautiful, right? So you're right there, Steve. I want to know how because you get pretty close to when to my ketones more often. All right. So when we talk about ketones, remember ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis, and above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And so when we talk about metabolism and being in ketosis, fasting, one of the reasons we fast, particularly the extended fast, is that we want to get into ketosis. And so we want ketones to be 0.5 or higher. If I look at actual graphs of blood sugar and ketones, you'll see the tan line that you're seeing there. That is my blood sugar. And then the turquoise line, the dashed line, those are ketones. So as I have eaten, right, since I stopped breaking or broke the fast last week, as I've eaten, the blood sugar went up, the tan line, and when that goes up, insulin has to come out. And when insulin comes out, of course, the ketones have to go down because insulin and ketones can't stay in the same space. And then if you look at the graph down at the bottom, the turquoise graph, you'll see that it made an upturn, and that's presumably is when I started fasting. And so now ketones, blood sugars are coming down, and ketones are starting to go up. Awesome. All right. Let's see. So Gino said, thank you, doctor. Tomorrow, same time for the live. So it's probably going to be around between 8:30 and 9:30, somewhere in there. Please let me know all your lessons, Zooms, and lives. So the Zoom, which is the community meetup, is going to be at 7 o'clock Central on the 21st. 7 o'clock Central on 21st. He said the sign up says it's for the 28th. Thank you, Jennifer. It was scheduled for the 28th, and I didn't change it because remember we're changing the date. So, go ahead and sign up for it anyway. I'll go in and I'll make that change. But yeah, so even if it says 28th, go ahead and sign up, and I'll need to make the change for it. But it was originally because we normally do it on the next week, but we're changing because Thanksgiving is on that particular week. Okay. All right. So everybody, thank you for stopping through. Remember, we are experiencing unlimited potential. We have unlimited potential, and we are working on limitless living. That's what we want to do. Limitless living. And limitless living says that we have the ability, we have the power, we have within us the potential for making decisions into our future. And one of the things that we're using for that, of course, is our fasting. Remember, balanced bites. We're fueling our bodies with balanced bites. These are the food items. These are the food structure. This is the food. This is the meal that we are putting together, and how we approach our food. And if we do that, it also, along with fasting, hits all of the pillars for reversing diabetes. Remember the food triggers that we will run into, and we are actually going to be doing our show on Monday, Dwain Woode MD Live, talking about holidays and such, and how do we navigate them and how we should approach them, the thought process that we should have as we approach them. So make sure that you join us. Always unlimited in our ability. We have unlimited potential, and I think I showed you guys the infinity sign, right? Because we have infinite potential for making changes into the future. We reverse our diabetes by decreasing our insulin, suppressing our appetite, and reducing our sugar. Those are the pillars. We do that all through our three triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. That is the platform on which we're building all of this information. We educate with the shows and the blogs and the podcasts. We empower with the tools that we learn, and we encourage with the community that you are a part of. So when you show up, right, come on in, join the challenges, right, because that's your way of practicing. That's how you put to practice the things that we are learning. Don't just let them be things that you hear that go on the shelf, but things that you are incorporating into your day, into your life, into your weeks, your month, and ultimately into your success. Also, when you come, share your story. Let us know where you are, challenges that you're having, successes that you're having, so that we as a community can grow, so that we can encourage each other, come alongside, give suggestions, help us as we are having difficulty sometimes in different areas, and celebrate when we are having those successes. And then, of course, share it with someone. Let somebody know that there is a space where they can be metabolically healthy. That is amazing. You can be the voice in your family, in your community, in your church, at your doctor's office, wherever you find yourself. You can be a voice that says, hey, there's a place where we can go, where we get educated, we get empowered, and we get encouraged. And that's it right here on Dwain Woode, MD. We'll check in again tomorrow, and then we'll check in on Friday. Of course, Saturday at 9 p.m. Central, we have the videos from the vault. And then Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Central, we have This Week in Review. And then, of course, we're right back here next Monday at 7 p.m. Central for Dwain Woode, MD Live, as we talk about, hey, how do we get through these holidays? I'm always glad to be here with you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out and sharing and being a part of this great, amazing community. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at our next show.